You can create some really cool and powerful builds in Star Wars Outlaws, and one of my favorites is one that I like to call the Take No Prisoners Adrenaline Rush build. This is absolutely not a build built for stealth. It's a mid to late game build for those situations where you really just want to run in and wreak some total havoc. And it works incredibly well even on the hardest difficulty settings in the game. Now the idea behind this build is simple. Build up adrenaline while taking a ton of damage, and then use the Adrenaline Rush ability to take out multiple enemies, and you can basically rinse and repeat this as many times as you need to. So there are basically two main components to this build. The ability to take a ton of damage without being killed, because if we're not alive then the build just doesn't work, and you're also going to need the ability to fill up your adrenaline meter as quickly and as often as possible. So for abilities, anything that gives Kay a little extra health, like the Survivor skill from the Scavenger Expert or the Resilience skill from the Gunslinger Expert, are super useful. Bacta is also going to be really important to help keep us alive, so the enhanced Bacta Injector skill from the Hotfixer is also useful because it increases the amount of health we're able to immediately get back after using a Bacta vial. And anything that helps improve adrenaline gain or the Adrenaline Rush is going to be really helpful as well. Once we gain access to the Gunslinger Expert, we'll gain Adrenaline Rush Mastery skill, which allows us to mark 2 additional targets while in Adrenaline Rush. And in particular, the more and the better abilities, which you can also get from the Gunslinger, allow you to mark up to 6 targets through the Adrenaline Rush, and also allow you to double mark elite enemies, which is really useful in the later stages of the game. So with those abilities laying the foundation for the build, let's talk about the gear loadout, because instead of using a specific set, I'm going to be using pieces of 3 different sets. Now I know that I'm losing out on a set bonus because of this, and trust me, I love a set bonus as much as the next person, but I've played around with a ton of different loadout combinations and found that the skills from these 3 pieces complement each other really well. So starting out is the Vandor Survivalist Jacket. This is one that you can pick up from the merchant sold to Lorak on Kijimi, but you need to have an excellent reputation with the Ashiga clan in order to buy it.
You, over there.
If you do need some tips for maxing out your reputation with any particular syndicate, I made a video where I talk about some hidden mechanics that help you farm reputation, which I'll link in the description below. But here's why I like this jacket. It comes with reduced damage while taking hits from blaster or projectiles, which is important because again, for this build to work, we need to stay alive. And taking damage no longer interrupts our Bacta vial health regeneration, meaning while you're in the middle of a firefight, we can use a Bacta vial to heal, and it'll continue to heal us even as we continue to get hit. Now for our belt, I'll be using the Imperial Disguise Belt. This is one you'll get as a syndicate reward for maxing out your reputation with a Pike syndicate. I think we can all probably agree that the Pikes are the worst, but if you can bear working with them for long enough, you'll be rewarded with the Imperial Disguise set, which is one of the cooler looking sets in the entire game. The belt in particular comes with the skill that health gets restored for each enemy defeated during the Adrenaline Rush. So depending on how big your health bar is and how many enemies you're able to take out, this can be really powerful and has the ability to take us right back up to full health once the Adrenaline Rush is over.
All right.
And lastly, for our pants, I'm going to be using the Outlaw Pants. The Outlaw set is one you'll eventually get just by playing through the main story. There are 3 different main missions, the Hive, Jabba's Favor, and the Viper, and completing each one will give you a different piece in the set. This is another really good looking set overall, but what I like about the pants in particular is that Kay will gain a huge shot of adrenaline when using a Bacta vial. This basically acts like Bane's super serum, with Kay going full Terminator mode whenever she injects herself with Bacta. Coupled with the fact that our Bacta heals are no longer interrupted while taking damage, and our Adrenaline Rush will give us back health for defeating enemies, this basically guarantees that we'll be able to continually refill our health, making us pretty much indestructible.
Okay.
Now for charms, there's a lot of flexibility here because you get 5 different charm slots, 1 major and 4 minor charms. I've experimented with a ton of different combinations and have settled on these 5, which I think are all pretty complementary to each other, but if you have any suggestions, definitely be sure to let me know in the comments. For our major charm, I like to use the Ancient Hunter Carving Stone, which increases Kay's ability to earn adrenaline from all sources. So whether you're getting hit by blaster fire or on the run, you'll be filling up your adrenaline meter. The Ancient Hunter Carving Stone charm is one that you can pick up in a treasure chest at Typhon's Rock on Toshara, southeast of Jonta's Hope. You'll have to navigate a bit through the tunnels, but it's pretty hard to miss once you make your way all the way through.
Look at this. Oh, I've been wanting one of these.
For minor charms, again, there's a lot of flexibility here and a few good options to choose from, but here's what I use. First is the copper root bead, which I like for the increased health. It basically adds one additional section to your health bar. This can be picked up by the survivalist merchant Chrysanta Palace, who is located east of Janta's Hope, just north of Typhon's Rock.
Hi.
Next, I'll be using the Glacial Relic, which gives me adrenaline after a successful supercooling. Now, some might consider this a bit of a cheat, but I have auto cooling set to on in my settings. This just makes it a lot easier to focus on your aim and staying alive rather than having to time those cooling windows, and is definitely one of a handful of settings I recommend that you update just to make the game a better overall experience. You can even use this to sort of farm adrenaline before even heading into a fight by just shooting your blaster, waiting for that cooling window, and then repeating it until your adrenaline is full or near full. And the Glacial Relic is fairly easy to pick up from Visca, which is a merchant in Crimson Dawn territory on Kijimi.
Your support is noted.
Next, I use the Glyph Stone, which provides me with adrenaline after a blaster hit. This pairs really nicely with the Glacial Relic to just keep a constant buildup of adrenaline when I'm going into combat. This is another one that's pretty easy to purchase. You can get it from the Pike Merchant in the Pike Crystal Mountain region on Akiva. And for my last charm, I'll be using the Crate Dragon Fang. This grants me an additional adrenaline rush target, which brings my total up to 7. The more of these targets you can get for your adrenaline rush, the better, but I do feel like there's a bit of diminishing returns because once you trigger the adrenaline rush, you only have about 7.5 seconds to mark your target. Personally, I'm just not quick enough to scan the area and mark all these targets most of the time, but elite enemies do count for 2 targets, so getting more is never a bad thing, especially if you're a lot quicker at marking targets than I am. The Crate Dragon Fang is one you can find in a chest at a Tusken Raider camp on Tatooine, north of the Western Dune Sea at Pillar Forest. Okay, and that is my Take No Prisoners Adrenaline Rush build. But if you have any tips or suggestions for how I could make it better, or you have any other interesting builds that you'd like to see, be sure to let me know in the comments. And then be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get my reputation up with the YouTube syndicate, and every like and subscribe really does help me out. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.